it set a precedent that the government no longer has to prove the site's there. They went in a courtroom, they could not tell the judge whether they were actually on the site or not, but they knew the site was in the general area. And even though that Bob and Ed produced later on that the site was buried under the lake, Whitney, and the site didn't extend to where they were on the lake, it made no difference. They were prosecuted anyway for just being close to the site. So the president got saying, when I say president, that means that the next guy that gets in trouble for something like this goes to court, they cite Bob and Ed's case. Look what happened to them. This judge ruled this way. Well, you figure that judge will rule same way. It takes a lot of work off his back to have to rethink it and re-look through it. He has to go completely through the Bob and Ed case to rule opposite. It's much easier just to rule with it. See? The next one was the Ed Luther case. And that happened over in California for a guy out in the Forest Service with a metal detector and picked up a piece of colored glass. And they finally, the ranger stopped him and made him throw the colored glass down on the ground. He was stealing artifacts. And he was a retired school teacher with bad health, and they sent him home. And then 3 weeks later, they come to his front door and say, well, here's your standard government form. And the stubborn, if you ever get in trouble, your form that you will get from our government is that it's a $100,000 fine or 10 years in jail or both. That's a matted letter. That's, everybody gets it. It scares you to death. If you were a 10th offender, you wouldn't get that. But that, you don't know that. So they scare you completely out of your wits, which in this case, the Ed Luther case, it turned around and put him in the hospital. He was so old, 80-something years old, and he picked up a piece of colored glass and the ranger told him to throw it down, and then he's cited for it, and he's supposed to be in court, hire an attorney. Who has the resources? The government has the resources. You got the money to hire an attorney and fight a battle? Okay, and in that particular case, again, it was surface fines. He picked it up off the surface because the metal detector didn't find the glass. Then we got the Gerber case. The Gerber case was way back there when it was on a piece of property and he got permission. There was a bulldozer out there redoing the property for building and crushing all the Indian artifacts. He was going in front of the bulldozer and saving the Indian artifacts. Archaeological community had been looking for the site for 12 years. Couldn't find it, he found it. So he got in trouble for finding it and having permission on GE land to be there and pick them up. So irregardless of whether you got permission or not, the government's saying, well, just go ahead and destroy the history, just as long as you don't have it in your possession. You know, we've been looking for it for 12 years, and you find it, that makes a black eye to us, so here we go. So he went through a long case. Lynch case, I don't remember exactly why he was in trouble, but I do remember Little John's case. Little John's case was over in the East Coast, and that set a precedent for high water mark on beaches. In other words, if you're on the beach and the water's down or the tide's out, you go below the high water mark on the beach over there and you can get in trouble, you can get arrested. You're below the high water mark. And Pensacola case was an Indian artifact. It wasn't really an Indian artifact. This lady, a professor at Pensacola College of archaeology, went after all the treasure hunters that she could see from the college window out there on the beach hunting. And she stopped, had Pensacola closed down to metal detecting, including the city parks and the beach. Well, it kind of backfired because somebody turned her in for all the Indian artifacts that she collected, and that was on a government military base, which was against the law, and the Indians picketed the college and asked for her to be fired from the college, and she had to go put the Indian artifacts back in the military base where she dug it. After she buried the Indian artifacts, the Indian tribe leaders said that was the wrong place to dig them up and rebury them again. So fortunately and she doesn't work there anymore at that college. So we have a few out there that just are looking for trouble. Mel Fisher case, everybody's pretty heard that one. Offshore treasures and shipwrecks off the limits of the United States are now being claimed by Spain and France and It's theirs, it's not yours, give it back. It doesn't make any difference, you went after it. We're not interested in going after it, but when you get it up and out of there, we'll take it from you. So that is the problem. Steve Phillips' case, where the GPA owner was with him and they were diving in the river over in Alabama, and that became an underwater cultural resource thing. They were finding rifles and stuff from Civil War items or before war, and they got prosecuted by the state of Alabama for cultural items being removed from the rivers. They finally won that case, and Mr. Jerry Hobbs go in for them and won that particular case. So there's a positive note, barely. But that is another sore spot, but it did set a precedent for cultural resources under the water, like your riverways, waterways. So now if we have another problem like that, we can cite the Steve Phillips case over in Alabama, and it'll be in our favor instead of their favor. The reason for most of these threats are being because of the misuse of Antiquities Act and the historical commissions. They're on some kind of binge. I don't know about the other states, but all the Antiquity Acts, state to state, is basically the same thing. They copy each other's Antiquity Act. And like I said, it's for landmarks. It specifies landmarks. It has nothing to do with you out there digging, and cannot be used to remove you from a piece of property. And here again, I wish I could find my attorneys. I'll find it here in a minute and read it to you. But we hired our attorney to dig into the Antiquity Act, read through it, and get his opinion. Give me a second here, maybe I can find it for you. Of that. It's interesting the way he puts it. Still don't see it. Anyway, he basically says that it can be contested in court. And that's what it really comes down to. We're going to end up with the Antiquity Act and the ARPA, and they're going to have to go to court somewhere in the United States. Once we set a precedent in our favor, they rule, yes, the Antiquity Act does not have anything to do with metal detectors or the hobby, then that'll be a precedent that we can refer back to. Until it goes before a judge, we're just fighting the city or fighting the state head to head on the Antiquity Act. They make their interpretation, which is misinterpreted, and you can read the law. And once the judge reads the law, then we got it in our favor. If they want anything different, they're going to have to go back to the Antiquity Commission and try to change it in their each and only state. The Sierra Club, environmentalists, archaeologists, archaeological significant areas. Like I said, they all have to have surveys. The environmentalists are great. Let's see, what was it, 2 years ago, they caught the U.S. environmentalist up in Oregon planting a rare Canadian lynx hair in the woods, and they happened to videotape them doing it. They stole the hair off a museum, rare Canadian lynx, and hid it out there so they could close all that part of the national forest to public, and they caught them on tape. That was a good one on CNN. You should have watched that one. Showed where some of our environmentalists stand. I've gone head to head with Sierra Club several times. They're kind of out there on the left wing. Archaeologists, significant areas. If it's significant, don't try to go into it. Get permission if they want your help. If they need a survey, hey, volunteer for it. Whole club. Volunteer for a survey and help them dig it out. Let's put it in a museum. That's great. The Antiquity Act, I already sent you the synopsis of it. The attorney I told you about. The ARPA is federal law. Also on the back side of that Antiquity Act, you'll see Mr. Stackhouse. Mr. Stackhouse is the director of law enforcement for the Parks Department in Kansas City, or Kansas, state of Kansas. And I thought he put it very